Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there was a young girl named Cinderella. She was kind, gentle, and always willing to help others. She lived with her father, a kind and loving man, in a small, cozy house. However, Cinderella's happiness did not last long. When Cinderella was still very young, her mother became ill and passed away. Cinderella was very sad, but she had her father to comfort her. Soon, Cinderella's father remarried, and he brought home a new wife. The stepmother was not kind at all. She was cruel, selfish, and always treated Cinderella badly. She had two daughters, and they were just as unkind as their mother. These stepsisters were spoiled and lazy. They would sit around all day, enjoying themselves, while Cinderella did all the housework. She cleaned the house, washed the clothes, cooked the meals, and took care of everything. Cinderella's stepsisters would often laugh at her and make fun of her. They called her Cinderella because she was always covered in ashes from the fireplace. They told her she was not good enough to wear nice clothes or go to any fun events. Cinderella did not complain, though. She worked hard every day, always keeping a kind heart and doing her best. One day, the king sent out a special invitation to all the young women in the kingdom. He invited them to a grand ball at the palace. The prince was going to choose a wife, and all the girls in the kingdom were invited to the ball. Cinderella was excited when she heard about the ball. She had never been to such an event, and she dreamed of meeting the prince. When her stepsisters heard about the ball, they were very excited. They started choosing their best dresses, trying on jewelry, and getting ready for the big night. They were very rude to Cinderella, though. They told her she was too plain and not important enough to go. "You must stay home and clean while we go to the ball," they said. Cinderella was very sad, but she did not say anything. She worked hard to finish all her chores and quietly dreamed of going to the ball. On the night of the ball, as her stepsisters were leaving, Cinderella was sitting by the fireplace, feeling lonely and sad. Suddenly, to her surprise, her fairy godmother appeared before her. The fairy godmother smiled and said, "Cinderella, why are you so sad?" Cinderella told her fairy godmother about the ball and how her stepsisters were going, and she wasn't. The fairy godmother smiled gently and said, "Don't worry, dear. I will help you go to the ball." With a wave of her magic wand, the fairy godmother changed Cinderella's dirty old dress into a beautiful gown made of sparkling gold and silver. Cinderella couldn't believe her eyes. Then, the fairy godmother turned a pumpkin into a shiny golden carriage. She changed the mice that were in Cinderella's house into strong horses, and she turned a rat into a coachman. Finally, she gave Cinderella a beautiful pair of glass slippers. But the fairy godmother warned Cinderella, "Remember, my dear, the magic will only last until midnight. At that time, everything will turn back to the way it was before." Cinderella thanked her fairy godmother and hurried to the ball. When she arrived at the palace, everyone was amazed by her beauty. The prince saw her immediately and was struck by how beautiful and graceful she was. He asked her to dance, and they danced together all night long. Cinderella felt very happy and special, as if all her dreams were coming true. But as the clock started to strike midnight, Cinderella suddenly remembered what her fairy godmother had told her. She had to leave before the magic wore off. She quickly ran out of the palace, but as she ran down the grand staircase, she lost one of her glass slippers. She did not stop to pick it up, but she hurried out of the palace, hoping no one would notice. The next day, the prince searched the kingdom for the girl who had lost the glass slipper. He sent his servants to every house, asking all the young women to try on the slipper. The prince wanted to find the girl who was meant to be his wife. When the prince's servants arrived at Cinderella's house, her stepsisters tried on the glass slipper, but it didn't fit them. Then Cinderella stepped forward and tried on the slipper. It fit perfectly. The prince was overjoyed. He knew that Cinderella was the beautiful girl he had danced with at the ball. He asked Cinderella to come to the palace, and they were married soon after. Cinderella became a princess, and she was very happy. Even though her life had been hard, Cinderella never stopped being kind and forgiving. She forgave her stepmother and stepsisters, even though they had treated her badly. Cinderella and the prince ruled the kingdom together with kindness, and they lived happily ever after.